I'm going to try to do about an hour presentation in 10 minutes. I'll try to be as thorough as possible, but it's a really, really crazy, convoluted story, but it is very relevant to what's going on right now. About 1985, a high priest in Guatemala gets on a plane in Guatemala City, and he buys a ticket to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and gets off at the Sunport in Albuquerque, walks downtown into a health food store, talks to to one of the young ladies who was working there, and she said, well, of course he's dressed like a Crayola factory exploded on him or something. You know, he's in full Guatemalan dress with all the colors, and you know, you can tell he's really, really different. But the young lady was married to a Cherokee man, and so she kind of recognized there's some kind of indigenous thing happening here. So she goes up to him and says to him something like, "Are you a medicine man?" Of course, he doesn't speak a word of English, but his entourage, kind of one of the members in the entourage, spoke some broken English and said, yes, we're here looking for something, and you know, we're here on a mission. So she says, well, gee, you know, my husband and I are launching a new business, and we want to sell Cherokee medicines on a commercial in a commercial venture, and would you please do a ceremony for us so that our venture will prosper in these? And the man says, oh yes, of course, yes, we can do this for sure, because I'm looking for something anyway. So he makes the arrangement that evening to do a ceremony in their house for the success of their business. Well, this young lady and the man in question, they were my neighbors. So they call me. Oh, we're having this medicine man, and I think he's from South America or Central America or something. He's going to do a ceremony for us in our house for the success of our business. And I said, ooh, wow, a real South American, Central American shaman. You know, like all I ever get to see around here is just the locals. You know, I don't get to see any of the really big guys. So it was like, yeah, I definitely want to go to this. So I'm there bright and early and sitting down and like that, and I see my first fire ceremony where he did a Mayan fire ceremony in the center of the room. They made space. Anyway, after the ceremony, the usual after ceremony feast happens. So we're sitting around, and the one of the members of his group comes up to me and says something like, "Do you speak Spanish?" I said, yes, I speak it fairly fluently. He says, fine, the master would like to speak to you. And so I'm like, this is good. Not only do I get to see a genuine Mayan high priest, now I actually get to talk to him. So he's sitting in a kind of, those oversized chairs, and he's all nice and comfortable like that, and I'm, looking for a place to sit, and there's no place to sit except right on the floor next to him. So I sit down, and I'm, ready to ask him about a jillion questions. And he then turns to me and he says something that if I'd have been more sane, I probably would have got up and ran for my life. But he says to me, my dreamers have been telling me about you. It's like, oh no. Your dreamers? It's like, oh my God, I've heard of stuff like that, but I had no idea. Then it starts. He says, 26,000 years ago, this happened, and then like that, and he starts to tell me the history of humanity from 26,000 years back all the way to 1985. And just like, okay, this happened, this flood, this fire, this blah, blah, and he just goes down ages and ages of information. It's like just pouring into me, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on here? Who could know this much stuff? Like, where's this coming from? And then it comes down, it's like 1985. So after he works his way down from 26,000 years ago to 1985, and he says, I'm a Mayan priest. The Maya are the people of time. It is our job in the cosmic order of things to keep track of time. We have calendars. We manage, I don't know, it said 13, 14, whatever. We have managed all these calendars. We keep track of time. And for 26,000 years, we've been tracking time, and we have reached a very, very critical junction in time. And he said to me, what has got to happen now, or what is going to happen really, really soon, is the age that we have been living in for the last 26,000 years is coming to an end. At the end of an age, all of the people, and he was referring to all of the indigenous people, he says, all of the people are supposed to come together and do prayers to close the old age. And the quality of the prayers and the participation of the prayers that are done at the close will determine the quality of the coming new age. So it is really, really important that every tribe bring their piece of the puzzle to the prayers. So we have to do this together. And as many as possible, and no one must be left behind. No one must be left behind. So what we have are we the people, okay, here's a kind of the phrase, you've probably heard it about a jillion times, but those from the center shall bring the eagle of the north and the condor of the south together to be like the fingers of one hand, because they are one like the fingers of one hand. Of course, all this is going on in Spanish, and I'm kind of translating it in my mind. And this is what he said to me. He says, okay, we have already worked out who is going to coordinate the gathering of the people in Central America. I have already contacted the coordinator for all the tribes from South America. You are going to be the coordinator for all the tribes in North America. I said, just exactly when is this gathering? Like, I hope it's like many lifetimes, many years pass, I can just get the ball rolling. I'll contact a couple of tribes that I know, my own and a few neighboring tribes, and then we'll hand it over to somebody. And no, he says we have to do this like within, I think 2 or 3 years. I think because yes, that was another thing. He said we've been trying to do this. We've been trying to do this for several years. Actually, he said we're behind schedule. So they were already behind schedule in 1985. He says, we're behind schedule. He says, we've got to do it as soon as possible. We only have a few short years to do this. Oh my God. I said, okay, we'll get on this right now. He says, yes, tomorrow morning you're taking me to visit the Hopi. You gotta be kidding. I was like, wait a minute, I've got a job, I've got a life, I've got, and then besides, like Hopi's way the heck out there. Is like, it's an 8-hour drive from my house. It's like, how are we going to do this? It's all right, okay. He says, tomorrow morning we're going to see the Hopis. And then, so we pile into my car and off we go, off to see the Hopis. And away we go. So on the way over there, he explains to me, he says, okay, the reason we're having to see the Hopis first is because Maya are the keepers of time. Well, the Hopis are the keepers of knowledge. So we the Maya have to directly contact the Hopis and tell them, that it's time, because it's our job. We're the timekeepers. We don't really do much else. We just keep time. So we go to the Hopis, tell them that it's time, and they'll know how to unpack this thing or whatever. We're just the alarm clock. So we get into my car and we drive over to Hopi. We get waylaid on the way. I'm not going to fill in all the details, but anyway, we get to Hopi like about 9 o'clock at night. So I'm like, oh my God, nobody's going to be, we can't talk to anybody at 9 o'clock at night. This is crazy. I mean, this is Hopi. They don't even have electricity here. I mean, they go to bed at probably sundown. So I said, look, let's just sleep here in the car. In the morning, we'll go out and we'll go talk to the elders. So we get all comfortable in the car. And all of a sudden, there's this light coming from down. I actually parked right in the plaza because, I didn't know where else to park. But we park in the plaza, and there's this little light coming right at me, and I'm like, what in the world is this? Finally, this little old lady, she was about that tall, and she was about 100 years old. She kind of taps on the glass, and I roll down the window, and she says, are you the people from Central America? What? She says, we've been waiting for you all afternoon. Yeah. Oh no! Okay, so we pile out of the car and they take us over to a big sort of a room, probably the same size as this room, only it didn't have that partition in it. And then the old men bring out these papers. In fact, Adam is carrying one of them, and this is the second time I'd seen him. I only saw him once before, and I asked Adam today, so how did you get that thing? I only got to peek at it, but anyway. They unroll these scrolls, and then they have this conversation between the Mayan and the Hopis, and they said, okay, this is done. This is okay. This means this. Yep. Okay, good. We get back in the car. We take off back to Albuquerque. It's like, and then the next day I put the Mayans back on a plane, and they fly off to Guatemala, and then starts the fun, and then I have to start contacting all the pueblos, and then they're like that, and on and on and on and on. Anyway, after most of the tribes had been contacted, the rule was all of them had to be included, and I tried really, really hard to talk to everybody, but it was an impossible task. It was just absolutely impossible. There was some tribes flat out told me, says, we hear what you're saying, we understand it perfectly, we know what you mean, but we can't accept this news unless it's delivered to us in our language. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know 500 indigenous languages, I can't do this. And then there was the other ones who had said, well, are the so-and-so tribe going to be there? And I said, of course, we all have to be there. So we can't go because they're our ancient enemy and we can't go. I'm like, oh no. And then there was the other ones that said, well, I hear what you're saying. We know about this. This is in our prophecies. But we're not going to go because our prophecy says that when this happens, it's the end of the world, and we don't want that to happen. Okay, so I finally wind up like, I make arrangements for a few tribes to show up. But then later on, here comes the refusals. I start getting phone calls or letters from tribal leaders saying, we can't send our elders to Guatemala because it's too dangerous. They're killing Native Americans in Guatemala, so we're not going to send our elders to Guatemala for any reason. It's just, we'll lose them. So they started dropping out. And little by little, it came down to, I had three tribes represented in time to go to the end of the world ceremony, or the closing of the New Age ceremony in Guatemala. So I load them. Oh, and the Hopi were one of them. So at the airport, a messenger from the Hopi's elders shows up and says, oh no, the elders can't go. There is a big problem happening over on Hopi. Some energy company wants to cut an energy line down such a place, and that would break the energy lines in Hopi, and Hopi would be destroyed, and the elders want to stay behind and stop it. And I'm like, oh man, this is really going to heck. But anyway, we get to Guatemala, me and three other Pueblo elders. We get there, and then I find out that there was like 4 or 5 elders from South America get to the meeting, and of course all of Central America is there. All of Central America is there. So it's a 10-day ceremony, and that was what was planned. We were supposed to get all the prayers done in 10 days, but like 2 or 3 days into this, the ceremonies stop, and the elders just say, look, this is not working. We cannot do this the way it's supposed to be. Things just are not right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do 3 ceremonies. We're going to do this one, and this will be the ceremony for Central America, where they're going to go to South America and do a ceremony in South America for everybody. Oh, no, okay, I'll get to that. So we do a ceremony for people in South America. Then we will do another one in North America, and that will take care of all of the tribes in North America. That took care of that problem of, we didn't have to worry about elders getting bumped off, and although that didn't fix the problem with you don't speak our language, and you don't, and our enemy is going to be there, so we can't show up. But now we have a significant representation from the elders. One of the things that was a real challenge, because we still wanted to have representatives from Central and South America. Central America wasn't so bad, but when we tried to bring in the South American elders, it became a real problem, especially when we tried to bring in some from the Amazon. It turns out the people in the Amazon don't have birth certificates. They can't get a passport. They don't have they have no identification. All they got maybe is some tiger teeth and some feathers, and that's it. That's their whole ID. So anyway, I had to get them on a plane somehow, get them a ticket, and bring them over to the United States so they could participate in this ceremony. Fortunately, I didn't do this alone. I'll be honest with you. I was just the coordinator. I had a staff of 100 people by the time the third gathering happened. And so some of the people in our staff was very well connected, and we got the State Department. Now get this is really funny. We got the State Department to intervene to let these people in, because these guys were coming in wearing tiger skins, teeth from endangered species, feathers that don't belong anywhere. So Customs were told by, who was the congressman at that time? Can't remember whether that one of New Mexico's congressmen talked to the State Department, and they told them, says, let these people through. So what they did is, when our plane came in, the people in Customs were all supposed to leave and take coffee break. And that's how we did it. So they came through, walked through Customs, wearing every outrageous thing in the world, carrying every illegal drug known to mankind, because it was their medicines and all that. Walked right through Customs, and men were in there drinking coffee and didn't see nothing. And we brought them to the ceremony in North America, and that was the closing of the old age. For better or for worse, it is done. However, there is more to be done. As much as I'd like to say, done, finished, there is still more to be done. There was one little hitch in the prophecy that needs to be taken care of. If you remember, it says, no one will be left behind. Now, when the prophecy was written, 20,000 years ago, maybe 5,000, who knows, there was only tribal people in North America and Central and South America. So when the tribes were called up to do the closing of the age ceremony, somebody got left behind. We can't let that go. So, Adam, tell them what's coming. Oh, by the way, this is my replacement. Because at the end of the third gathering, and I said, I'm done. This is what is one man supposed to do in a lifetime? You know, I have done more than any one man should be called to do in any one lifetime. I am done. But then this other little nagging thing showed up. It's like, oh, what about this? What about this? And then they conned this guy into finishing the task. So he calls me one day and says, the elders are wanting me to do a gathering, and I was like, I don't know anybody else. I don't have any. Click. I'm like, good luck.
So, that's a good story. Yeah. So it took a little while actually to get him. I was a lot like Patricio too. Like I shared my story. I just came on the pathway, of this prophetic, this journey. So I'm just fulfilling the duties, the best I can do too right now.